caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything. And more than anything that you can do, I just want you. I'm sorry when I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. I'm caught up in your presence, and I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never want to leave. And I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything. More than anything that you can do, I just want you. I just want you. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else. Nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. I'm caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything. More than anything that just want you.
Welcome, family. Happy Sabbath. I know it kind of caught us by surprise, huh? As we were talking, we started straight into the song. And isn't that how Sabbath is often? We're kind of going along our days, and sometimes it really takes us by surprise, these moments that God has for us as we're serving, as we're going about, and the coming and the going. And I was just thinking about how intentional we need to be to come aside, kind of the way that Moses did when he was out tending the flock and he sees that burning bush, and he had to come aside and have an encounter with God. And so you've chosen to come tonight to have an encounter with God, and more specifically also to have our cups full and filled. And so at this time, we want to acknowledge that maybe some of us are here and our mind is already going into the 1,000 places where we have Sabbath school tomorrow and children's ministries tomorrow and potluck and all of the different things that you will be doing. You carry this church forward. And so it takes an intention to pause and to just be in this moment. There's nothing that we need to do other than just be and receive. In Hebrew, the word is ruach. In Greek, the word is pneuma. And these words are used to describe spirit and breath. And there's something so beautiful about the gift of breathing and praying and being still within us. So at this time, I want to share the following verse with you. It's in John 7:38. It says, "Whoever believes in me, rivers of living water will flow from within them." And the truth is that often, I know I've been there, where I need to pour out, and my cup is empty. And you know what I'm talking about. You're getting to church, and you're feeling empty. And you know that an entire group of people are waiting for you. You need to be pouring out and pouring out and pouring out. The invitation tonight, Jesus tells us, is whoever believes in me, rivers of living water will flow from within them. So at this time, I want to just invite you to settle into your seats, and we're going to have a moment of prayer. And it will be a moment where we together come and sync collectively by taking a deep breath in and exhaling. When you breathe in, I want to invite you to imagine that you have the most beautiful bouquet of flowers in front of you, and you're just like breathing in that aroma. And when you exhale, I want you to imagine that you have just these glowing candles in front of you that you need to blow out. And together with every inhale and exhale, we will pray the following words. So together we take a deep breath in. Lord Jesus, we exhale. Fill me again. We inhale. I release my striving. We exhale and receive your peace. Inhale. I am not the source. Exhale. You are, Lord. We inhale. Teach me to abide. Exhale. Not just achieve. We inhale. Where I am empty, exhale. Bring your fullness. Inhale. Where I am anxious, we exhale. Bring your calm, Lord. We inhale. Where I am weary, exhale. Bring your rest. I invite you now to sit in silence and to posture maybe your hands, palms facing upward. And as we do, it's a simple posture of reminding us that we get to receive tonight. We don't have to strive. There's no pressure, no need to perform. We just need to be present. And God, as we, with open hands and open hearts, come before you tonight, would you breathe on us new life and remind us that your Spirit is enough, that your strength is enough. Together we will take one last breath in. As we inhale, we pray, God, you are everything we need. And we exhale, everything flows from you. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. Amen. Family, at this time, I want to just invite you to please welcome a very, very warm welcome, and just to have an open heart as we receive from our dear friend. Thank you so much for being here. We're so grateful. It's your time.
Thank you so much. I really needed that. That was traffic. I was thinking, I was like, man, I was looking at the time. I had packed. My time is packed anyway. So it's wonderful to be able to be with all of you. Thank you so much for having me here, and special thanks to Pastor Manny. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Pierre at Loma Linda. They know me as Dr. Pierre Scott. I'm the Associate Director of Physician Vitality there, and I am an Associate Professor in School of Medicine. So you can find me up there, and I'm running around doing something around on campus. One of the things that in talking with you today, we're going to be doing some activities. We're going to work together. And so you won't just get to hear me talk, you'll hear yourself as well. I would like to start out with a story. And it was a major miscalculation on my part. A major miscalculation. You know when you plan something and you think you have enough, if you have ever done that, you think you have enough. Maybe it's like, you're going to the airport, you have enough socks, underwear, pants, those sorts of things. And some of you maybe think, I don't even worry about that. I bring the whole closet, so I don't worry about having enough. I know it will be there. And then I'll shop. Some of you are like that. And then sometimes, maybe if you have taken a trip, the trip, right? If you have kids that you will look around and did you bring all the supplies, or did you bring the diapers, or did you bring their pack and play, or whatever it was, did you bring it? And then when you realize you forgot it, well, someone's in trouble. Probably none of you, but if you've had that happen, then you're just realize like, oh no, this is going to be a thing. Well, I made a major miscalculation. It started out good enough, as most things do, and you don't realize sometimes in the immediate that the miscalculation has happened. What has usually happened, sometimes you discover it by surprise. And you have that, oh no, right? And for some of you, right, that could be like leaving your phone on the other side of TSA, right? You just, oh, or it was, at the restaurant or your credit card or whatever. You usually find that the next day. That's happened to me. But in this case, we were about to go hiking, and we were going to take 10 miles, hike 10 miles in. It was early morning, beautiful. The moon was lighting up the valley. Down, 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 and down some more into Havasupai. If you've ever hiked down to the Havasupai, anyone been there? It's so beautiful. I should have put a picture up. I thought, well, I'm sure everyone's been there, but have all these beautiful falls, and it's very, very, very beautiful. So if you get a chance, look it up. But Havasupai, very beautiful. There's a Indian tribe that lives down there, and at the time of year that we were going, we started our hike at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. And there's a reason why you want to do it at 3 a.m. because by the time that you start hiking at, maybe say, what would give me a normal time you think would be good to start a hike? 8 a.m., 6, right? By that time, you're cooked, right? It's hot, and you're sweating, and you don't feel like hiking. You're going to want to stop, anything else but hike, and it is that hot. I mean, it was 100 degrees, easy. But we hiked down into with our crew down into Havasupai, and it was good. It was all good. In fact, we were making good time, and I am one of those hikers that do not like to necessarily be in the back, dragging everyone down. That's not me. I like to be somewhere at least in the middle or even towards the front, good conversation partner. And if I am towards the back, just because I'm hanging with everyone. And that usually is how it goes. And so we had a good time. You're just like enjoying the falls, the turquoise blue water, cold, and you can see the falls they're 30-foot falls that you can just see. It's absolutely beautiful. And we went there after a storm had, it was a few months, about 6 to 8 months, I think, after a storm had gone through and had destroyed part of it, but they had rebuilt some of it, and so it was absolutely beautiful. And so we had a wonderful time. And the water actually does look as blue as you see it on your phone. You hold it in your hand, and it's still there. Blue. And so you have, I will say, ladies, if you, I don't know if I didn't bring a picture of it, but anyway, there's a lot of calcium type of stuff in the water. So if you really are particular about your hair and you just got your hair did, maybe rethink it, or do whatever you do to protect yourself. That's all I'm gonna say. But you're gonna want to go in the water because it is that beautiful. So we went and hiked down there, and we just enjoyed our time. And one of the things that is about this camp is a leave no trace camp, which is good, right? For all of you that went to Burning Man a couple of years ago, right? You remember this? You all who know who you are, right? You're like, well, I'm not raising my hand. Don't worry, he's not going to say anything. But it's a leave no trace camp, and and that's great. You pick up your trash, you bring in what you need. You bring in everything, all the water, food, sleeping bag, all the things that you're going to need to stay out there. And when you're done, everything comes out with you. So you're going to need to, factor all of that in. And so we had a really wonderful time. I'm a pretty athletic person. I go to the gym. I enjoy being in sports. That's not usually a problem for me. It's just like, hey, that's just my lifestyle. That's, Blue Zone. It's kind of like a requirement. I think when you move there, they say, sign this, that you promise to always be faithful to the Blue Zone and Blue Zone lifestyle. Actually, the funny thing is that at Loma Linda, they do have, when you work for them, they do have a way you can get a checkup or some team sort of thing and make sure that you're staying on, and I guess it's incentivized so you can have better health insurance for those of you work there. You know what I mean. So for me, having a healthy lifestyle, being active, not a problem. And most people that are there, they pride themselves on that too. And I felt pretty good about it. And then you have some people that are not so healthy, but they were there too, and you made space for them. It's okay. We all support each other. I just don't want to be the last one. Anyone here like that? You don't want to be you don't want to be on the struggle bus, but sometimes, we all have our moments. This time it was me. And I had made a major miscalculation because on that Sunday morning when we were supposed to be returning up, I would not know that my major miscalculation would appear till about 3/4 of the way. We were doing pretty good. We made a stop to, if you need something for breakfast, get something. And I remember how easy it was to hike down. It was 10 miles, 10, 11 miles hiking in. I had something to eat. I packed pretty light because when I travel, and if we ever travel together, you will see that even for overseas, I only usually bring one bag. And I'm not talking a suitcase. It's a small bag. I'm a very minimalist packer. I don't bring a lot of stuff. And maybe just like another thing my wife had on the other, that's we've worked that out though, and she is down to one bag more or less. So that's efficient. I mean, for me, it's efficient. I packed what I thought I needed, and I had a great time. I had a chance to stop off, to go in the store in the Indian reservation to be able to get some food or something else, and everyone's like, I'm going to get some stuff, and nothing was really appealing to me. It was early in the morning, and I was like, I'm good. I think I'm going to be all right. I have what I need. I'm going to head on up. Well, it turned out that 3/4 of the way, some people started passing me. And I was like, it's okay. And I was having a conversation and talking, but then I noticed that I was moving towards a more meditative state. Very much more in my thoughts. And I mean, it's not uncommon to be able to be thinking while you're hiking and, about your life and whatever, that sort of thing. And it was I was single then. And so, you probably, oh God, is there someone for me? Okay. And what's my future with my job? What kind of salary will I have? Blah, blah, blah. You think about those things. Well, that was folding in on me. But I started to know something else, that my calculation for where we're supposed to be, and it started with this one question. How much longer? And that's when I knew I probably had miscalculated. But I didn't know the full weight of it. I didn't know the full weight of the miscalculation. It was only when we rounded it's about like this, kind of rounding a corner, and then you can see that it's like switchbacks that exit that leave you in the parking lots the way up there, and there's switchbacks that you go on up, and then that will be, and it's a ways. I mean, we're probably about 2-3 miles for sure, at least. And I remember thinking like, oh. And I'll never forget my friend. She and her husband were going, and she was hiking in sandals. And I was like, how are you hiking in sandals? Oh, and just kind of going. And I was like, I remember like crossing over. It means shale rock, so it's not easy to hike. And I was crossing over, headed up, and she just passed me and just like, hey, how's it going? You doing okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm doing all right. I'm fine. Other people start passing me. Hey, we caught up to you. Because I was like doing pretty good. I was like just clipping along. Oh, we caught up to you. It's like, yeah. It's like, I'm doing fine. And pretty soon I noticed that I did not have the speed to close the distance. I mean, the speed was not there at all. And it was at that point that I said, I went to my pack, and I realized that I had maybe like half a candy bar or something like that there, just a little bit. I had some water, but it was not enough. And I just was like, I got it. So I said, well, I'll just conserve energy or something like that. It got to the point I was like, nope, I'm going to eat that for this last part. And then everyone was gone. And I remember thinking, like, seeing everyone starting the zigzag, and I wasn't even up to the zigzag, the switchbacks yet. And I thought, this is not good. Like, I mentally tough to like will myself to speed up. You know, it's like, okay, and so every once in a while I just stop a little bit, and then I'm going to speed up, and then, all right, moving. Well, that burned out all the energy that I had to try and like be able to catch up, and then that just like done. So everyone is like going up. Even this old lady, like, you know, she just cruised on past me, and I just thought, oh, this is definitely not good. And I was just like, what is going on here? And then I had to stop. People, everyone, even the slowest, I could hear the cheers. Hey, you made it! For people, yay, you made it! I'm just hearing cheers. Oh, you made it! It's like, where's Pierre? He's there. And I just think, and immediately I just thought like, oh no, I'm that one. I'm the struggle bus. This is not good. If you've ever had that feeling that you're that one, it's like, ugh. And I just thought, and all the things of like, high school and grade school and everything came by. You're like the last one to be picked on the team. And I was like, no, that can never be me. No, I'm athletic. I was like, oh no, this is like maybe coming true. I felt so bad. And I remember just thinking like, oh man, the thought was for me is like, you should be athletic enough to do this. You should be the one to complete this. In fact, you were first. You were doing well. In fact, you were leading the way. Solid, just going. Like, no one has to, like, come back and say, oh, let's go back and help Pierre out. That's usually me. I'm the one that goes back and helps people out. I'm used to doing that. That's kind of like what I do. It's like kind of like my job, helping people out. It was humbling, because my miscalculation is I did not pack enough food. Yeah, breakfast, lunch, dinner, did it. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, yes. Breakfast-ish, not really a lunch. I thought I was going to be able to be out of there in time. I didn't realize the impact of that till it was about, this is going to be embarrassing, but I'm going to tell you, like, it's like from here, the switchback went up, and to that corner, I could see where the exit was. I could not get myself to go from there to there. I was so depleted of energy. And it was only that one of my friends came down, had some Gatorade, and said, don't worry, I'll walk with you. I'll walk with you to the top. And I just, and she had to do extra. I was like, and I'm just like, And I remember feeling I felt bad. I felt like so much for fitness, and you're like really tough, and you can build it. I just felt like everyone just saw straight through that. You can't do it, just like, I felt low. I felt so embarrassed because everybody had. Good thing I wasn't talking trash, because I will say that would have been the worst thing. But just the voices inside me. I was criticizing myself so hard. And so I'm telling you, she walked with me. I remember that Gatorade tasted so good. And the thing is that even with the Gatorade that hit, and I was like, I got like a jolt of energy, I could only go halfway. And I had to stop again. And I said, I am so sorry. I have to stop. I have to stop. And I could hear my parents are they were hard drivers, particularly my mom, and just like, let's go, Dad, it's like you were hiking, like, don't you be tough, don't let anyone else see you like lagging behind, you better keep up. All right, and it's like, okay, I'll keep up. It's like yelling at you to keep up and dragging you along. It's like, oh, keep up. And I felt that. I felt all of it, all the pressure from family, from what is expected, maybe even the pressure of like what it means to be a man, a cool guy, that sort of thing. And then when it doesn't work out, then it's like, well, what should I do? I get to the top, everyone cheers. Yeah! Oh, Pierre, you finally made it. Finally made it. And I was just like, yeah, and this is the words I said. I will never forget it. I turned to all of them and I said, man, I am out of shape. They all laughed. Clearly, duh, I was out of shape. This is like the unders, like, duh, you are completely out of shape because I think everybody that was down there had passed me on the way up. There was nobody left in the canyon except for me. And they just, okay. And I just, I felt it so much. And I just thought, wow. But to be able to have someone be able to be there with you. And I have to say, during that time, as I was doing a lot of praise, leading and music and leading out and different things, and so maybe I wouldn't say known entity in the community, so to speak, but I had responsibility, and people did look to me. But it challenged me so much because of the expectations I had for what I thought was a leader. So thinking about this, I wanted to be able to talk with you about leadership, spirituality, and mental health. You can go to the next slide. One of the things that when we look at our world, one of the greatest hidden crises in spirituality communities today is many leaders are emotionally exhausted. Does that sound like you at times? Where we're emotionally exhausted while appearing spiritually successful. Several years ago, researchers studying burnout discovered something fascinating. And it was emotional invisibility, whether people felt emotionally noticed. They asked, and so if you think about like burnout in America, it's about 75% of Americans today are experiencing burnout. And about 53 are in the high intensity of burnout. About 19%, about 51 million Americans are experiencing depression. And that's just the reported. So when we look at that, we think about spirituality, and we think about mental health, and we think about leadership. What is expected of a leader? Next slide. What would we say is expected of a leader? What happens when people carrying everyone else have no one carrying them? I didn't feel like I had anyone carrying me at this point. When I was on the hike, definitely not. But I did feel the pressure to be able to be there and setting up an example for everyone else. Lead the way. And then the leader that's supposed to lead the way falls really, really so far behind. What do you say? Whenever the expectation, at least the one I put on myself, was, aren't you supposed to be first? Aren't you supposed to be active? Aren't you supposed to be the one that leads the way? You might look the part, but under pressure, are you the part? Did they just discover my kryptonite that maybe, no, he looks fit, but he's not actually fit? I know. Ooh. I didn't want that said. My brother and I used to joke about that. You can look strong, but are you strong? And it's like, no, we want to be strong. It's like, and now this is like hitting, and I was like, oh, next slide. So silence is not healing. Sometimes it's survival. And we do lean into our silence at times. Many churches unintentionally reward our performance over presence. And the thing is that when we think about that, especially in silence, how many times have you decided to you're like, I'm just going to survive. I'm not going to tell anyone. I'll just hold it all in. I'm not going to talk about the breakup. I'm not going to talk about the fight we had. They can never know that we had a fight. Why? Because if I tell anyone, then what would they think? What would they think of us? Would we be seen as not the authority, and especially in leadership positions? Leadership positions where people look to you as the model for this, or especially in relationship or marriage or just like in anything that you're trying to do, that if they see that you actually have one of those days where you have to hash it out with your partner, will they see you as less than? That's why you drive very, very, very far away to be able to have your, or you get some, so you just like, but what will people say? That we end up suffering in silence. Functioning is not flourishing, but we've learned to function. We've learned emotional invisibility. Why? Because the thing is that, we have learned to, I guess in Spanish, as aguantar. Is that right? We just learn to deal with it, right? Just kind of go along. And then you tolerate a lot of things that you didn't mean to tolerate. You start accepting the unacceptable. And you see how that starts to fracture your life. And then you have silent suffering in leadership. It's hard. Who actually is going to talk about it? Who's going to say that functioning is not flourishing? Who's going to be honest about that? Because the thing is that, we get rewarded for functioning. And as media leaders today are surviving publicly while suffering privately. They preach while being emotionally numb. Maybe at work, you are like leading a team, or maybe you're just like, oh no, I read my devotions. I don't like that person, so I'm just going to kind of like, but I'm going to try anyway. But inside you are just cratering. Emotionally numb. Sometimes people you might know are in emotionally numb relationships. They look great, but it is as cold as ice, it is sexless, it is loveless, it is empty. Sometimes leaders, while internally exhausted, counsel others while disconnected from themselves, smile while silently collapsing, and perhaps the most dangerous part is this. Many become so accustomed to fragmentation that it begins to feel normal, that we actually kind of are used to it. We carry this stuff, and then what we do, we celebrate. We celebrate it. Next slide. I'm not saying that the weight of leadership is easy to carry or there aren't great perks to have with it, right? We have emotional exhaustion, burnout, isolation, hidden suffering, performance culture, all those things that we're trying to navigate. We don't talk about them usually, maybe just as a joke, like, bro, totally burnt out, but God's good though. He gave me what I needed today. I'm just going to push on through, right? The hidden suffering, maybe it's an addiction. Maybe it's something else that's like being open about your struggles. Where are you supposed to be able to do that? We're going to pretend that we're all good and everything is fine? No, we all struggle. All of us. Performance culture really drives a lot of this. Next slide. When we talk about, and so this brings me to our text today, Galatians 6:2-5, bearing one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. For if anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let each one test his own work, and then reason to boast will be in himself alone and not in his neighbor. For each will not have to bear his own load. It's a very interesting text that Paul's talking about. And that, how in the world do we bear each other's burdens? Next slide. I want to talk about this word bear. Paul does two different, he uses two words, and the Greek word for this is like baros. In the first, the first part of the text, he is talking about this crushing burden, like something that happens, it's like suddenly it appears. And in our lives, that looks like trauma, grief, burnout, depression. That's what that looks like. Things that, let's be honest, we are all familiar with. Why? Because we are part of the what race? Human race, right? In other words, it's like, oh, you too? Yes, you struggle. We all struggle. These are some things that happen to us. But then there's this other word, fortin, right? So that daily responsibility and accountability. and personal growth, which is interesting because the thing is that what he's talking about, there is a human experience of suffering that we all have, and then we have also a personal responsibility. Right? So it's like bear each other's burdens. Like, well, what burdens am I going to have to bear? I don't want to bear everyone's burden. I mean, it was enough for me hiking to have my own burden. And I'm pretty sure that not anyone wanted to like take me on and carry me on their back. I would have taken it. But the thing is that this just like, we all have our struggles. Bearing each other's burdens. It's tough being exhausted. Paul knew this. And at the same time, he's trying to teach us something. Many churches unintentionally reward performance over presence. We celebrate competence, productivity, strength, availability, constant service, and emotional composure. We do. And we lean hard into it. And it looks good. Oh, man, they keep it so together all the way that you weathered that tough time. Oh, I saw how you were like intervened. Man, you were stretched to the bone. Oh, you didn't even have very much sleep. Wow. I think he's going to put you in first. Definitely. You get the crown first. But what Scripture repeatedly honors, truth-telling, lament, things that we see in our world where we're saying, this is just not right. You see this. You don't have to go far. You see it, right? There are things in your life where someone has to say that this is not right, that this divorce isn't right, that the abuse that's happening isn't right, that the way that someone, the way that I went and like handled someone wasn't right. And at the same time, do we need border control, right? I mean, it's like, can we be honest with each other in a community that is hurting? We should lament the things that are not right in the world. Are we going to pretend that they don't exist? Are we going to pretend that the people, when they're sitting in the pews, that they're not struggling? What does James say? That if you see a brother who needs a coat, and you say, God bless you, keep on going, what have you done? Nothing. You have, in fact, made the love of God go away for that person because you chose not to help. In other words, lamenting the circumstances and the things that are already present, that you can see, that they're there. It's okay to say, I grieve it, I hurt. How else will we actually be able to say, it's not right? It's a holy thing to call out pain. It's a holy thing to acknowledge that some things are unfair. That's how things get fixed. What about honoring rest? I mean, seventh day, right? We're supposed to be good at rest. How many of you actually rest on the Sabbath? Schedules. Here. Here we go, right? What about dependence? Do we honor that? Do we honor confession? That where someone says, I want to make things right. I'm tired of holding this. I tell you, some of the my mentor said to me, he's I work also in the field of addictions, co-occurring disorders, and a mentor, he said to me, he's and we were co-teaching a class together, and he says, people who are struggling with co-occurring disorders, that means people who have a mental health and a substance use disorder, at least at the same time, at least the class I'm dealing with, that they are saints in the making. Think about people that you know who are so open about their struggle. when you think about substance use, and you think about co-occurring disorders, when someone says, I struggle with alcohol, I struggle with gambling, I struggle with like all the different pornography, I struggle with that they're so open is that, and I'm getting help, I'm working on it, I'm going to meetings, I work with a counselor, I've got a sponsor, and they just tell you straight up. I mean, they know that you might think ill of them. They know you might think badly, but they're like, well, I mean, can't be any lower I've been. And they're able to confess that. Do we see that as weakness? I mean, we might see it as strength for them. I mean, for us to say that, well, that would be a different story. We would never confess that because we are rewarded. The reward, right? The reward is you get to stay away from shame of the church, right? Or yourself. But Scripture honors truth-telling, where we are able to confess our sins one to another and to be able to say, hey, I need your help. Are we a congregation that says it's safe to confess here? It's safe to be able to get support. And that when you do, I'm not looking to use it against you. I'm here to say, welcome. I'm here with you. I'm not better than you. I'm not worse than you. We're all children of God. Next slide. Many leaders quietly learn that if I'm useful, I'm valuable, and eventually worth becomes fused with productivity. So leaders, they overfunction. And then they carry everyone, fix everything, rescue everyone, stay available constantly, and slow. Exhaustion becomes spiritualized. Oh, but I am really doing God's work. Don't you see how I languish? It's kind of I look at it, it's like if I were to say, look at me, God, see how much I do for you? See, look at me, I'm your number one. I am your number one. Look right here, I'm your guy. It's a struggle, right? And the thing is like, I don't want to feel like I'm on the outs. I want to make sure that God sees how hard I am. And then when everyone can see, and then when they say that, oh man, we saw how you like really jumped in and took care of that person. Well, thank you. I've been doing the best. And so we have a hard time learning what stuff is theirs and what stuff is ours. Right? In other words, that what Galatians is teaching, what we struggle to take on, it's not teaching heroic self-destruction. It's teaching mutual burden sharing. Mutual burden sharing. So we think like healthy burden bearing, right? Healthy burden bearing supports growth. It restores gently. It maintains, what's the word? Boundaries. Not the one that's like, well, it's a boundary. I said it. Okay, done. No, you enforce that, right? Usually that is like, in your house you have one, right? It's a door, and you lock it at night, hopefully, right? You have that, right? Versus, oh, no, I have a door, but I never close it, right? You don't have to answer the door if someone's at, midnight is like, let me check who's that. You don't, right? So maintains healthy boundaries. Codependency is what ends up sometimes happening, right? If we look at leadership and spirituality, that rescuing, enabling, emotional fusion, over-functioning. In other words, if I tell you this, and I give you this example, and if I told you, I said, this parent was helping their son, and perfectly healthy, and he was going to go on a date. And parent gets down there, ties his shoes, and, helps him put the pants on and helps him with the shirt and everything like that. It's like, kind of like picks everything all out and, it's kind of helping with his hair and combing it and doing everything. And, At first you might think like, oh, that's very sweet. He's 45. Yeah, cringe. All of a sudden you're like, well, wait a second. What's happening here? Right? Is he healthy? Is he okay? Is there some injury? Is there something wrong with it? No, he's not. He's fine. Whose fault is it? Son for allowing it? Parent for overfunctioning? Underfunctioning? Overfunctioning? You don't want to find yourself in that situation and people say, well, that's silly. I would never do that. But it looks like this in leadership. Oh, but they need my help. Oh, they can't carry that without me. It won't function if I'm not there. If I don't show up, they'll never get it done. In fact, I'm going to have to do this, that, and the other thing, because if not, it will never happen. I mean, sometimes I have this with couples that say, well, he can never, I have to do all the kids care stuff and everything like that, and I know he works. And just like in the food and prep, I don't know, I have to do that. I was like, why? Why do you got to do that? Well, you're just like, he's busy. Well, it sounds like you're busy. I know, but I have classes and everything, and he doesn't know. And I need to be there to help, and that's why I have a hard time studying. And I get overwhelmed and burdened down. But it's just my life right now. And I mean, when school's done, I'll figure it out. And I was like, so he doesn't have ability to make peanut butter and jelly while you're in class. He's not. Who'd you marry? Oh, he's great. He works really, really hard. Oh, okay. Well, then why don't you give him, I don't know, a job to do when he comes home? Or is he an axe murderer? Is that what's going on? Oh, no, he's fine. He's perfectly fine. He's just busy. He has to sleep and get some rest. Well, do you? And finally, I was like, no, your assignment is to give him, I know, but what if he does it wrong? It might be wrong. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And then what do you know? They come back and it's like, oh, you know what? Actually, he didn't burn down the house. That was great. Now he's like, oh, man, I felt so relieved. Why? Because the thing is that she's no longer over-functioning for her husband, right? She let him do the work, let him do the things and now she was enjoying her life. Same vice versa. It's like, well, I don't know. Dad, it's like, I don't know if she'll understand me. Why don't you try talking with her? If she blows up, well, then who's that on? Is it on you or is it on her, right? It's like you said it kindly. She has dignity, right? God gave her dignity. That means that she can manage herself. She can listen and hopefully hear you out. If you need to go see a therapist, then go see a therapist. Know some good ones. So being able to manage ourselves, not over-functioning, not being emotionally fused, letting someone maybe you, as leaders, sometimes we talk to different people and they're like, do you understand what's happening? Oh my goodness. And then they really get you all amped up thinking that you need to be like, come on, pastor, you got to get in there. And this church member said this and that and the other thing. And if you jump on that train, where are you going? You're going to be escalated and elevated. And then all of a sudden what happens? You might have the wrong information if you ride that train all the way. Enabling as well, the thing is, if we're doing any of those things or just rescuing, sometimes, and Pastor Randy just talked about this, is like if you rescue, and he's quoting Proverbs, that if you rescue an angry man from the consequences, you will have to do it again, and again. Is it love to do that? No, it's not. It's actually it's not just codependency, but it's also burnout. So it's a recipe for that, recipe for burnout. Next slide, please. So we find ourselves to even be spiritually dissociating, that where we find ourselves knowing theology without knowing who we are, right? Can't identify what your emotions are, can't receive support, can't be honest with God. So the thing is that if you can answer these questions, and it's like, are you able to identify how you're feeling? You can actually name what that is. Now, sometimes we haven't been trained to do that because, maybe how we grew up. Maybe receiving support, maybe the stigma goes along with that. If you're being seen asking for help or going to a therapist's office, it's like, well, what's wrong with them? Well, I heard, did you hear so-and-so was like having to get counsel? Well, if you're saying no to that, I would probably ask yourself a question, why is that? Now, I can probably say safely that probably in here, our communities that we probably grew up in, we're probably not always champions of mental health. Right? Hey, let's go mental health. And they're like, no. You don't want to do that. Pray about it. Because what will people think about you if you go in there? Can you be honest with God? Or do you clean up your prayers first, edit them, and then you pray your prayer? Can you as a leader tolerate or allow the challenge to be for you when someone else says, I'm angry with God? Do you rush in and try to fix it? You're angry with God? No. I'm going to defend God. Go ahead. Well, you shouldn't really be angry at God. God is good. God is love. I don't see how in the world you could actually be that way. See, what Paul has been trying to teach us is that healthy interdependence. Paul's vision was never become emotionally indispensable. His vision was become spiritually connected. And this is where many churches and many leaders become confused because compassion is not always the same thing as codependency. Galatians 6 does not command enabling and rescuing and emotional fusion. Some leaders become addicted to being needed. And some congregations become dependent upon healthy, over-functioning leaders. But Jesus himself modeled boundaries. He withdrew, rested, said no, left crowds waiting, escaped the noise, prayed alone. And this is what's important. Jesus carried the cross for humanity. He did not carry avoidance, manipulation, or refusal of responsibility. The difference between helping someone carry a crushing burden and carrying someone else's unwillingness to grow is to be able to notice where they're at. There is a difference. Healthy burden bearing helps restore people. Codependency keeps people emotionally stuck. So when we look at spiritual dissociation, another hidden issue among leaders is when they spiritually dissociate, many leaders preach connection with God while remaining disconnected from themselves. They know the doctrine beautifully, but cannot identify sadness, loneliness, fear, grief, anger, or shame within themselves. Interesting thing is that it leaks out. You can't suppress that stuff. Clinically, we call this emotional disconnection. Spiritually, it is often performative spirituality. And eventually, leaders stop relating to God honestly. Prayer becomes performance, ministry becomes image management, and spirituality becomes a role fulfillment instead of relational intimacy. Role fulfillment, that is like basically saying, well, I guess I'm married, so I should probably learn how to kiss my wife. And so let me read the book about it. Let me try and see if the technique and ask her if I'm doing it right and this sort of thing. Versus just if you're concentrating on that, you're missing the point. Right? Intimacy is about really a sharing of one's souls and really getting to know each other. Scripture gives us a radically different model. David says, "Why are you cast down, O my soul?" David talks to his soul honestly. Next slide. And Job is suffering. He's very open about that. His friends, we see it all. And it did not happen in a week. Sometimes we look at Job's story and Job suffered this thing, and then he hit bank and hit the lottery ticket, and he was good the next, for the next month or something like that. No, it was the worst of worst times. And are you going to think that Job is not going to forget his kids that he had? Suffering, just don't worry, God just replaced them and then that was okay. He suffered. You hear Job is angry. He is upset. He is honest about his emotions. Elijah, he's depressed, clinically depressed. You hear him, like, what about me, God? No one else, nobody else. And I mean, he is like just yelling. I mean, just like, just upset, angry after, like, God, didn't you see all I did? I'm the only one. And as Pastor Randy said that, he's like, if in his version, he would just say, he's like, well, if I was God, I'd probably just say, Elijah, get over yourself. I've got people. In other words, we don't have to take on all of it. I mean, God works with us because he wants to invite us in. The whole plan of salvation wasn't left up to, as like us. God came to redeem us. We could not redeem ourselves. Job screams questions into suffering. Jeremiah curses the day that he was born. And even Jesus in Gethsemane says, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. And biblically, spirituality is emotionally honest. It's honest. That's why we like these characters, or even sometimes are frustrated with them, but at least it's honest. The next slide. The first movement towards healing is seeing. Oh, next slide after that, sorry. The first movement towards healing is seeing. So Tim Mackey, often the biblical scholar of Bible Project, I don't know if you guys follow him, but he's great, often teaches that in Hebrew thought, seeing means more than visual observation. It means perceiving deeply, attending compassionately. It means like when you see someone for the first time. You're like, no, I'm taking you in. It's recognizing what lies beneath the surface. In Genesis 16, God gives us one of the most beautiful names for God. El Roi, the God who sees me. Guess who God said it to? Yeah. God says it to the immigrant. I see you. The God who sees me. Think about that. The first person in Scripture to name God gives him the title, the God who sees me. Not merely the God who commands, not merely the God who fixes, but the God who notices. And perhaps one of the greatest cries in leadership today is that people feel profoundly unseen. This happens in mental health. And there is a famous psychological study that called the invisible gorilla experiment. Has anyone seen that? I don't know. Do we have that slide? Let's see the next one. Can you play it and see if it works? I don't know. Oh, no play? Okay, well, next time. So if you ever see this, if you can look it up yourself. But the thing is that there's they're playing and they're passing the basketball. And they were told to count how many passes. And midway through the video, a man in the gorilla suit, or bear suit in this one, walks directly through the scene. And nearly half the participants never saw him. Why? Right. Because attention determines perception. What we see, or when we see what have been trained ourselves to notice, we will ignore other things. And many systems train us to notice performance, attendance, metrics, competence, efficiency. Not that those things are bad, but not emotional pain, if we think about it in church. We might notice it from, someone, I don't know what's going on with there, but don't let that sticky get on me. And because of that, people become invisible while standing directly in front of us. We've learned to hide. So, next slide. So, here's what I would like for you to do. Turn to 3 or 4 people around you, and I want you just to discuss a couple of these questions. I'll give you about 4 minutes. What emotional burdens do leaders commonly hide? What signals of distress are often missed in churches or organizations? Why do people feel unsafe sharing emotional struggles? And what does emotional healthy leadership look like? So go ahead, take a few minutes, and then I'll call you guys back. One more minute. $30. All right, let's just get a couple of summaries of what you guys discussed, and just here, I just want to get a few. Just what are we missing? What are you guys? What was some answers that came up, or something that came up as you guys were talking about this? Uh-huh. Growing up in it, culture. Yeah, you did not. Set free. So, how about you guys? Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm, yeah, yeah.
Oh, hello. How often that intimacy of telling somebody something can cost you your leadership, right?
Mm,
Like, and you
mm,
see it all the time in
mm-hmm.
like, you know, church roles. It'll be like, dude, I'm really struggling with this, and it's like, okay, and then a couple weeks later, it's like, oh, we've parted ways with so and so,
Yeah.
and you're like, wow, now he's really struggling, you
Yeah.
know. So it's like the burden of wanting to carry the cape of leadership without having the kryptonite, you know,
Yeah.
and like how do you deal with that? Um, and only seeing the tip of the iceberg of that person's like suffering and not like the base.
Mm, mm, yeah.
Me? I think for us, we were mostly talking about the emotionally healthy leadership, and Karen brought up something that was great, was understanding that cultural expectations and how they seep into church expectations, and how there's this moment that you to be healthy, you have to let go of the responsibility for the happiness of that person.
Mm-hmm.
And that connected with something that I remember this professor saying, Dr. Scott Cormode,
Yeah.
he was like, leadership begins with listening.
Yeah.
And it's because you let God ground you so that then God can ground them.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of all around what we were discussing.
Oh, that's really good. That it would begin with listening. It's true that we don't take the time to listen. Were you?
No, I just wanted to. I was thinking about how along the journey of leadership, like I've what we were mentioning too is how shame plays such a big part of it, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those
Mm-hmm.
hidden burdens that we carry,
Mm-hmm.
and it can show up in different ways. But maybe just to also iterate what Jose was just mentioning, like the releasing. And I don't know if it's so much like the responsibility of someone else's happiness, but I remember personally for me what it was like to walk into a space, especially in church, and think like, I need people to, to do everything so that they can be pleased, so they can be okay. And if there's bickering, if there's criticism, then it's probably something that I'm not doing, and it was almost like this over, I don't know, like taking on so much of other people's responsibilities. But I think part of other people's perceptions and feelings, and I think part of what God has been walking me through and helping me and growing is learning how to stand on my own, feel grounded without necessarily feeling like, everyone else's emotional and well-being is solely on my shoulders. That's not mine to carry. So yeah, I think that was something that we were also mentioning.
Mm-hmm. That is a really powerful take, because we find ourselves wanting to take responsibility for other people. Are you okay? I want to make sure everything lands okay. I hope this didn't go too far. I just want to let me curate everything for you. In fact, I'll curate my own presence to fit whatever it is that you have. And then I lose me, right? But if I keep doing that enough, it feels normal, right? And then, who am I again? Because I think it was Runaway Bride. I think it was like when they ask questions like, do you even know how you like your eggs cooked? Like, do you know? And maybe that's a question that you probably should ask yourself sometimes, like, wait, what do I like? What is my favorite? When am I happy? When am I sad? Do you recognize when you're angry? Do you know what that first impulse is? I know, because my ears go hot. Like my ears go hot. just like, I'm like, and so I can feel that, right? Or something's do you know when that shame response is starting to kick in? Do you know when you start to feel like, I'm starting to feel embarrassed? Or do you know where you start to wanting to hide? Or maybe you sense that someone else, and then you're trying to rush in to kind of like go save. A statement I often make is, not all baggage must be claimed, right? And so some things are just not yours, right? And there are some things that you don't have to just take with you. Even if it's yours, there's just some things that you're just like, well, I'm tired of carrying that. Shame, I just don't need it anymore. And in other words, like where people say, well, I remember you. Yeah, I was one way, and now I'm another. I've been blessed working with people with co-occurring disorders, because that is often where they're at. Yeah, you're right. I destroyed the town. I broke the relationships. I broke lots of trust. You're right. I mean, you can see me in the newspaper or whatever it is. They'll tell me, and it's like, they'll say, here, sometimes like, Dr. Scott, here's my mugshot. Let me show you what it is. And then, it's like, and we talk about it, and just like, hey, yeah, that used to be you. But God is in the business of transforming people. And so the thing is that you were one way, and now you're another. So not all baggage must be claimed, right? You don't need to claim someone else's. They don't want you to. Right? And if they try to give it to you, no, refuse it politely, right? There's no way, so when my mom died, there's no way that someone could just like claim that for me. I needed to do the work through that. And I didn't want them to claim it for me. It was my grief. Yes, did I want people to listen? Of course. But being honest about it and saying, yeah, I'm hurting, or being able to say no. But what will will it let people down? Maybe, I don't know, maybe. But it's okay. Someone else will probably fill in. If it's like, interesting enough, right? If we were to pass on, other people come and fill the spot. They'll hold a memorial, but then they'll move on. That's just how life goes. And so while as individual and beautiful as we are, God works with all of us, but there's a lot of things that are going to continue to go. And so we need to be responsible with our time. responsible with how we speak out. One of the great lies in leadership culture is this: if I speak honestly about my struggles, people will lose confidence in me. But Scripture repeatedly contradicts that idea. David spoke honestly, Jeremiah spoke honestly, Job spoke honestly, Paul spoke honestly, and Jesus himself spoke honestly. He's in the Gethsemane, he's just like, and he's under psychological torture and anguish. And in Gethsemane, he says, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Notice Jesus did not spiritually bypass his anguish. He named it. Research in interpersonal psychology demonstrates, in research in interpersonal neurobiology demonstrates that naming emotions reduces amygdala activation and increases emotional regulation. In other words, truth-telling calms the nervous system. James understood this long before neuroscience, and he says, confess your faults to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. Healing requires honesty, not perfection, not image management, honesty. And Brene Brown talks about this in one of her famous quotes, which is, we cannot selectively numb emotions, we can numb pain. When we numb pain, we also numb joy. Many leaders are not actually peaceful. Many are emotionally numb. And numbness is not spiritual maturity. When we have that, when you see someone's like saying, I'm feeling numb, that does not mean like you're looking at still water. It's like a bunch of pressure behind a big dam. It's a lot of force and a lot of churning under it. They tell you not to swim, in the area where the dam is, because there's a lot of churning and everything else like around that, and it's not good. You're not going to do well there, and so people can drown. And so it's not a lack of energy. There's a lot of energy. It's just not very much is able to get out. And so when we work with people who are feeling emotionally numb, we have to unpack some of those things. And it's one reason why sometimes people, it's like, you talk about going to church, it's like, I got to unpack this bag, and I just got it packed. I don't want to unpack it. And if I unpack it, then I have to do this, and I got to put it all together, and then... But then we create this scene, and sometimes it might feel like that. But if you have someone that you trust, and you are able to just say, listen, it's a mess. It is. It's a mess. And can we just talk later about it? Or I don't know, maybe that is going to be your sermon for today. It's like you sitting with a person. Maybe that will be the sermon that gets preached. Churches that gather but do not attach. Here's another blind spot. Many churches know how to gather crowds, but not how to create attachment. Attachment research consistently shows that people heal through emotionally safe relationships, not merely information. You can attend church weekly and still feel profoundly alone. You can serve constantly and still feel emotionally unseen. Many churches have mastered attendance, but not attunement. And with emotional safety, people learn concealment. And without emotional safety, people learn concealment instead of healing. In other words, we just hide. We're just hiding all the time. Versus us just being able to say, and I would challenge you to be able to say, what would it look like for you to be honest with yourself about what your needs are? Not about how perfect you state them. It's just, what are they? Do you know? Next slide. Thanks for helping me out with that. I want you to now just turn to each other, and I want you to discuss what creates emotional safety in a congregation or organization. What unintentionally increases shame or stigma? How can leaders model healthy vulnerability without oversharing? What practical changes could your community implement? So go ahead, turn to each other, take 3 minutes, and let's see what you guys come up with. 30 seconds. Okay, let's see what you guys came up with. What did you guys come up with? What themes came up in your discussions? Yes? Trust. It boils down to trust. Mm-hmm.
If you are comfortable with a person, then you're allowing yourself to show your goofy side, your silly side, your sad side, because you already opened up. And we've been in the church for a long time. We've seen the change. And it's scary to be vulnerable when you've come from a place of distrust. And growing into a place that's more open, you just have to learn to like the people you're with. If you don't like the people you're with, then it's hard to open up, I think. Like and trust.
Yeah.
If I don't like you, how am I going to trust you?
Yeah.
I married you, so you're
When I said what creates safety, I was like, honestly, relatability. Like, I want to be able to tell somebody something and know that, like, they're not like over here that they lord it over you and be like, oh, dude, I would never, it's like, dude, yeah, me too, like, almost like I want to know that you're like me, so that I'm not just confessing my sins to someone that like holds those sins over me.
Yeah.
I think kind of adding to what Arnie was saying, like trust is important, but sometimes I find myself, it's like, well, you were even mentioning something like, find someone that you can trust. And it's like, okay, well, when am I supposed to create that trust when I'm constantly busy and like doing a bunch of things and all the conversations are surface level? And again, seeing the once a week situation, again, in the context of church leadership, it's like, okay, so when do I create that trust? Because it's like, overall, you want to think the best of people, right? Oh yeah, these are all good people. These are all great. They're friendly. But then it's just like, okay, how do I learn to trust them if I don't even get to spend quality time with them outside of the roles that we're in? And so, yeah, I mean, and then we were also talking about how culturally, and, I'll speak on behalf of most Hispanics, we're chismosos. We love the gossip. And so sometimes I was sharing them, like, not here, but like in other spaces that I've been, like, I'll leave conversations and I'm kind of like, wow, we talked so much smack. I wonder what they say about me. Like, there's times like that. And like, again, I'm part of the problem too. Like, I'm not going to sit here like I'm perfect and I've never gossiped, but it's just like, sometimes that can feel shameful. Like if we're in these spaces and we see a lot of people like, oh yeah, well, so-and-so this or so-and-so that. My biggest pet peeve is when I've never met someone and someone talks about them and now I have this preconceived image of them. And it's just like, well, that sucks because now I can't give them the benefit of the doubt of creating that. I don't know. So I think just kind of checking ourselves on how we speak about others and how we speak around others is really important to create a safe space.
Creating trust. Yeah.
I think we're just. Oh, you had some really good things to say.
I was just saying that it echoes what everyone's saying, but if we don't have the ability to show that we're vulnerable as leaders or volunteers, then other people around us will hide and isolate in shame instead of having this common humanity that we suffer, you suffer, I suffer, we all suffer, even if it's different levels or spectrums of suffering. And I think that I don't see it lacking here, but I do think that sometimes leaders are always go, 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 and don't really have a moment and to slow down. But I'm glad that both are pastors, and I know we have more pastors too, that they tend to be very vulnerable about and open about, spiritual, but also like emotional distress moments. And that makes you feel, oh, I'm not abnormal.
Yeah.
People get depression. That happens. Anxiety is real. ADHD is a thing people struggle with, and so it doesn't make you feel alone. So that there's a balance that is played, but definitely the balance of not oversharing. Because that's where we're like, don't trauma dump.
I just remembered something that Jose, you said that I thought was really, really important when it came to practical changes. You want to share it? Or
So practically, that every leader needs a support system. Without support systems, leaders will easily isolate, and by isolating, they can tip the scales into self-doubt and multiple layers that begin a domino effect within their own community. And so that I feel is the greatest need of most leaders, is that support system, whether it is on things that they can help, lessen the burden, or it is just being able to be present.
Yeah. It's interesting that in leadership, leaders are often seen but not known. And when you're seen, not known, well, then where does accountability fit in? Right? You're more accountable when you are known. Right? And that moves you into needing to be able, in a trusting relationship, to be able to seek out trust. How do we create areas of trust? By being intentional. Intentional seeking out. And maybe you can't do it with everyone, obviously, but it's like, well, I'm going to at least show myself to be trustworthy. And with I can't do it with everybody, but maybe one or two, I'm going to at least try to build those relationships into a deeper level of trust. Or at least communicate to say, hey, I don't have as much time, but I will, with the time I have, and at the level I can, I will at least try to allow myself to be known. Right? And because many times, and maybe your parents have sometimes, it's like, don't ever let them see you, cry or this or have emotions. And then ask yourself, here's a quick one for you. Ask yourself, how well do you know your parents' struggles and hurts? What were their struggles? Now, some of you are going to say, well, I can tell you because they never told me, but I could see it. But that's the thing is with those conversations, but did they ever sit down and tell you what they were? How much would that have helped you had you known? Where they just said, let me tell you how to navigate this part of your life. You're going to run into this, but it was hard for me. I want to show you at least what this was like. And they actually sat you down and just said, this is what it is. I'll walk you through it. Here's some things that you're going to need to know. And then you remember later on, maybe you weren't listening because you're a teenager, but the thing is that later on you're like, oh, actually that was helpful. But you learned vicariously just by watching, kind of going like, oh, don't do that. That's going to lead to bad things. But it would have been nice if they were intentional. Last thing I would like to get to share with you guys is share, and it's communal resilience. Next slide. And it's like the final movement is share. So Galatians 6 is not describing heroic independence. It's describing communal resilience. That means shared humanity, mutual care, interdependence. And perhaps one of the most countercultural truths today is this. You were never designed to carry life alone. You did not birth yourself. You did not raise yourself. You did not do any of those things yourself. Yes, you had someone to teach you. Even Moses collapsed under leadership pressure. He tells God, I cannot carry all these people by myself.